Is Silksong worth it? Hollow Knight Silksong is playable on the Switch, both 1 and 2, PS4 and PS5, the Xbox One, and on PC via Steam. The game's gonna run you $19.99 wherever you get it, but it's free on Xbox Game Pass. Wherever you play though, I highly recommend using a controller. So, is it worth it? How much is there left to say about this game? If you've been living under a rock or at the bottom of some sort of bug-ridden cave system, Silksong is a Metroidvania-style action RPG by Cherry Games. The game is a sequel to the critically acclaimed Hollow Knight, and might be one of the most highly anticipated games of all time. I can barely think of any examples of a game with more hype than this one, but feel free to correct me in the comments because if any other game reached this pinnacle of hype, I have to play it for this channel. The game basically drops you right in. The controls are really simple, especially at the start of the game, before you've unlocked any additional powers. We'll talk more about that later. You get a super basic introduction to what your character can do, and you sort of just learn by doing. The introductory cutscene is just a few minutes long and immediately tells you a lot about your character and who you're going to be beating up. On top of that, it's stunning. The art style for this game looks even more refined than it was in Hollow Knight, which was a beautiful game in its own right. The best way I can describe why the art style works so well is first, excellent world building. Every single pixel on the screen feels like it has character. Nothing is a placeholder or filler. It all feels so intentionally crafted. But I think crucially, the art always draws your attention to the right center of focus by using varied levels of detail. Ironically, your character isn't particularly detailed, and neither are most enemies. In contrast, interactable or otherwise important elements of the environment have a clear level of increased detail as compared to the characters or the rest of their surroundings. Having simple characters that stands out helps you keep track of the important pieces on the screen without devoting all of your attention to tracking them. This spare attention then automatically seeks out these detailed statement pieces when they appear. This has a couple of important effects. First, it lets you soak in the beauty of the world that's been created here. That's worth a lot in its own right. But second, you have ample visual clarity during combat or other tense situations. And third, you always have a clear sense of what is important. Metroidvania games generally overwhelm me. I'm the kind of person that needs to explore every single room and find every single treasure before I move on. I think a lot of players like this are drawn to Metroidvania games, but for me, this often made the games drag on. Uninteresting rooms that I cleared just for the sake of completion wasted the time I could have spent getting to the next cool thing. I'm literally obsessed with this one character and her annoying ass fucking song that this trapped monster is just forced to listen to until I break him free. Then when I break him free, I just killed him. Silksong throws that concept right in the garbage. First, there are no uninteresting rooms in this game. Every room has something going for it, truly. But that being said, I was constantly being guided towards the most interesting rooms by this very clear visual language. What I'm trying to say here is that in Silksong, characters stand out because they're easy to spot and recognize, while important environment pieces stand out because they're detailed, complex, and naturally draw your eye towards them. As beautiful as the art in this game is, the gameplay purpose that it serves is the subtle star, working under the hood to improve the gameplay experience without the player even realizing it. Art aside, this game is remarkably fun for what it is. You will feel like a master of this game's combat maybe 7 minutes after picking it up. 4 minutes or so to watch the intro cutscene, and 3 minutes of practice, and then you're good to go. Your character can slash in any direction and can jump. You can also slash in the air. That's literally it. That's not quite true though, because there's also this mechanic where hitting enemies fills up a white meter. You can hold a button, which will then make you stand still and regenerate 3 of your initial 5 health points. Later on, you discover more mechanics that use up this white meter to do something different, but I found myself using this healing move a lot more than the others. The simple combat at the start of the game means you don't have too much to think about when fighting early game enemies besides their attacks. They are challenging because you are still bad at the game, but they usually just take a few hits and sometimes a little bit of jumping around to kill. Despite this, the animations and enemy design allow these simple combat tools to feel sleek, powerful, and well adapted for the challenges the game throws at you. The jumping puzzles feel the same way. Your character can jump, and that's about it. They'll also grab the ledge if you get close enough on a jump, which is cool, I guess. As time goes on though, you learn a few more techniques to get around, and the movement just feels even better than the combat. You can jump around and dodge enemies or get into better position to kill them. Traversing empty rooms feels like flying through a classic Sonic level, and the parkour specific rooms feel short enough to never get boring, while remaining challenging enough that they present a very real obstacle to your continued progression. Besides the obvious way that the game succeeds succeeds on these very basic levels, the game also builds an incredibly engaging world and makes progression feel concrete, relatively predictable, yet always risky. Basically, you're in this giant cave system and are trying to ascend to the citadel at the top. You start with nothing at your disposal, but unlock more features across the world as you go. The first thing is the bench. The bench lets you heal your health points and set a spawn point. Quick, simple, easy. As you continue, you collect currencies from enemies. There's a character you meet along the way that will sell you plenty of things, but most notably a map. Each zone has its own map, and you must find this NPC in each zone to buy the map for it. You can also buy various pins for your map that will allow your map to display icons for points of interest like merchants, benches, and other things you find along the way. As you continue through the world, you'll discover plenty of more features, like fast travel locations and other various tolls that unlock some benefit if you can meet the price. Exploring the world, unlocking new benches, maps, travel points, and more makes the map feel less daunting the more you explore. Each of these boons feels earned though. Running through caves blind and finally finding the map vendor feels like a huge weight off your shoulders, and finding a bench after a tough fight feels like you can finally let out that breath you've been holding for the past 15 minutes. Metroidvania games often have me feeling like a headless chicken, but Silksong never lets you feel that way. The rooms never get less threatening, but you get better, you get more tools, and the environment starts to feel more like your friend. The first time you clear a certain zone, every room is daunting. It's one challenge after another. Another room where even the walls are trying to kill you. But then you find the map vendor and explore the zone. Now you know where you're going. Then you unlock all the benches. Now you know where you're going and where you can take a rest if things get too tense. This keeps going as you unlock the rest of the pins for your map and explore the rest of the zone. Zones typically have a boss or two, depending on the vibe there. One of my favorite moments from my playtime was facing this boss, Lace, who it seems will come back later if I keep playing. This was one of the fairest bosses I've fought in any game, and somehow it was still one of the most fun I've ever fought. Lace's attacks were all very clearly telegraphed, but they came out quickly and often in random sequences. Each hit I got on the boss felt earned. It felt even better because each hit also helped me charge up my meter. The meter made each hit also represent some healing I could have in the future, so I was always super encouraged to sneak in as many hits as I could, not just to kill the boss faster, but to survive the onslaught of attacks. I fought some other bosses too and died to all of them plenty of times. The other bosses were similarly good with really unique telegraphed attacks. It wasn't always obvious when the boss was susceptible to my attacks, but I mean this in a good way. Figuring out when I could sneak extra hits in on the boss and how many I could sneak in safely made all the fights feel like I was the underdog. Dying in the game is also not too punishing. When you die, you drop your prayer beads currency in this cocoon. The cocoon gives you all your beads back when you hit it, but disappears if you die again before you do so. This is not a novel system. Plenty of other games use it, but they do so for a reason. Making sure you don't traverse too far without resting, or else you risk having a perilous journey back with particularly high stakes. Otherwise, dying is no big deal. All it does is knock you back a single peg, but it's not a major reset. I've tried to highlight here some of the things Silksong does that are really unique, since I know that everything else has been talked to death at this point. But what everyone else says is true. This game is definitely worth it. The game starts fun and stays fun the whole time I was playing it, and there's no doubt about that for even a second. For 20 bucks, this game is a steal.